Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to A Late Gaymer. It is officially Pride Month, so happy Pride. I hope everybody is having a great month of June so far. This is the first Pride Month June episode, and it is the second episode in the RWBY review series. This episode is for the McFarlane toy line, for all the figures that McFarlane Toys put out, and I've been really excited to do this one. I managed to get my hands on all of these during the pandemic. It was kind of a pandemic goal of mine, and I wanted to quickly go through kind of the ins and outs of all of them. Not so much unboxings, but some things that I've noticed gaps in some YouTube videos or people setting them up, mainly having to do with how the figures are actually set up, various price points if you're looking for them, and just kind of overall fun things I've learned about them as I have been trying to hunt them down. I know a ton of people have already done unboxings and whatnot. This video is kind of to serve as a history/guide for anybody looking to hunt these down, maybe wanting to know a little bit more about them, just random odds and end things that I've learned while trying to look for them, and also just interesting things that I've seen people do with them, also things to look out for. So kind of just a hodgepodge of that. So not really an unboxing video, but kind of a informational kind of video. Proper setup, cool things that I've seen other people do with them. I haven't seen anyone with a full collection like mine. I could be wrong. If somebody has one out there, send me a picture of it. I want to see it, or let me know in the comments below, because I've seen a picture of everybody with the regular sized figures, but I haven't seen anyone have all the figures, including the two giant versions of the Beowolf fight with RWBY and Weiss. So that would be really cool to see all together. That was kind of my other goal with this video, was creating some kind of media that I myself had not seen. But just kind of moving forward. So as far as I know, McFarlane Toys produced 4 series of these figures and the 2 giant statues. We've got Team RWBY, which is Series 1. We've got Juniper, which is Series 2, and Crime, which is Series 3. And last but not least, RWBY from her Volume 4 outfit. She was the only one that got her second version from McFarlane Toys. The giant statues, kind of the same thing. RWBY and Weiss both fighting a giant Giga Beowolf Grim. The cool thing was that there was a cast version of the statue that was literally no color at all, just gray. Only 50 of those were made. The colored version, they made 950 of those. In this video, you will see the boxed version of it that it came in. I have not opened it yet, mainly because I do not have the space for it. It is that big. I always wondered, I saw it on the Rooster Teeth website, and I was like, why is it so much money? I did not understand. I was like, maybe there's just a lot of detail. But then when I actually finally got it, I understood why. This thing is like 30 or 40 pounds. Shipping was like $50 to get it to me. It was not cheap. And so anybody looking for this, the 2 giant statues are probably for the more hardcore fans, and it is definitely worth the price of admission. Also, you may notice that I have some empty boxes along with the figures in their boxes. While I was hunting for these, I got a set without their boxes, and I have a set with their boxes. So I actually have 2 sets of Series 1 and 2. And the first series I actually have an autographed copy of, except for Weiss's statue. So something I've noticed when buying these, you can definitely find them. Some of them are harder to get than others. You can kind of use this as a guide when looking for them. What are you up against? Originally, they used to be, if I remember correctly, I think at their most, I want to say about $60 on the Rooster Teeth store. I know when they went on sale, they went down to $35, somewhere around there. And at their lowest, like when Rooster Teeth was trying to get rid of like the last of their stock, which was Team Crime and Jean and Ren, because those did not sell well, I guess. At their lowest, they were $4.99, which was amazing. That's when I got my copy of Team Crime and Jean and Ren, was when they were $4.99. I was like, this is amazing. And that was several years ago. However, during the pandemic, I was like, I want to get all of them because I had nothing better to do and we were all stuck inside. So I was like, all right, I'm going to start looking for these and see what they're going to run me. And basically what I ended up finding was that the Series 1 seemed to be the hardest to get my hands on, at least during the first year of the pandemic. Series 2 was easier to find, but Pyrrha and Nora were selling for the highest, and Jean and Ren were not. So if you're in the market for any of those two seem to be the hardest to get. And if you've seen some that are like really high, just wait. The thing that I've seen with RWBY stuff is that some stuff goes for really high depending on what it is. And other stuff not so much. So if it's something that you can wait, just wait, because, you know, at some point somebody's going to break. So if you can wait for it, I just suggest waiting. That's just my personal opinion. But if you're a diehard fan and you want them, you can kind of use this as a gauge of what you might be looking at. So for the first team, all of them together, you're looking at anywhere between $50 for one figure and $200 for all of them, depending on which figure it is. Blake and Yang seem to go for the most, for obvious reasons. And also Weiss. RWBY seems to be pretty available to find, and also in her box. A lot of these people didn't keep the boxes. It was just one of those things they probably didn't think they were going to need. Also be wary because they will get damaged. There's a possibility they can get damaged by USPS via shipping. I had one RWBY figure the box get completely demoed by USPS. But luckily some of the sellers that I dealt with after that packaged their figures way better. But besides that, I mean, they come in several pieces depending on which figure you get. Team Crime also, they did not sell well to begin with. I think mainly because people were just trying to get Team RWBY and Team Juniper. I could be wrong, but as far as I can tell, when they were on the Rooster Teeth website, those took the longest to sell. When also looking online, usually they don't sell that well unless they're like all together, which I get why for collecting purposes. If you're trying to, knock it out of the park, you want to get them all in one go. But if you're looking at spending a good chunk of change. So just be ready to do that if you find a listing with all of them intact. I have seen all 6 figures go for like anywhere north of $600-700, depending on what condition they were in, if they came with their boxes. Usually if it's just the figure, no box, it can range anywhere between $50 and $30, depending on if the seller is trying to move the figure quickly. I mean, it's like any collector's item. And just kind of go in with the fact, knowing that Series 1 and 2, specifically Nora and Pyrrha, are going to be hotter commodities, just because Pyrrha especially was a fan favorite character. So I'm just going to go through each character really quick, kind of show you what they look like fully set up. This is Ruby Rose. This is how her figure is supposed to be set up. Something really cool that I found as I was going through some YouTube videos, and I did not realize this in the initial unboxing, is that in each of the first series boxes, they each have a cardboard cutout that you can actually take out of the box, and it kind of creates this little scene for each of them, which I think is really cool. I will put a picture of it in here somewhere so you can see it, probably during post-editing. and it will be somewhere during this video clip. But moving on, we've also got Weiss. She looks like she's on the floor where she was battling the Armagigas, which was really cool. Series 1 seemed to be more, which I totally get it. They were on their first series as I'm trying to get her back on her little pegs. There we go. Series 1, they were probably trying to figure out how to do these, and that they all have their own individual poses and floor pieces, which kind of makes sense given the way that the original trailers dropped. Here's Blake and her stand. Unfortunately, she seems to be one that comes broken the most. Beware these pegs. The pegs that they actually hold them up are very fragile and they can break very easily. Blake, I've seen a lot of people have had to super glue her to her stand. I'm one of those people that if I don't have to super glue them, I'm not going to try to. So she just she's free-formed from her stand. And last but not least, we've got Yang on the dance floor. And something just to keep in mind that I've seen, these weapons all come apart except for Blake and Yang's, obviously. But if you do not own them, you would not know that. Some of the figures' weapons come pieced together. And I will show some footage at some point of me actually putting together their weapons, taking them apart, and actually putting them on the figure, because I haven't seen anyone actually show how these go together, and it'll just go into specifics later. So really quick, just kind of taking a quick look at Ruby Rose. So this scythe is broken up into a couple different parts. And this little clear piece, which seems to be missing from some figures, is actually used to hold her cape up. She is one of the larger figures and can tip over very easily. I've also seen some sellers listing without bases and also without the little clear pole. So if you're wondering what this little hole is right here, that is for this. And basically the scythe comes apart in two different parts. I'm going to try and set my camera down so you can see it. So right here, it comes off at this end, and there's a little piece right here that actually slips in to her hand. Now, I'm not actually going to take her scythe out, but you do have to finagle this part of the scythe into her hand. Her little fingers are malleable. Don't worry, they're not going to break. Oddly, the hands seem to be the toughest part on these figures, but you literally just angle it into the hand and it sticks in there just like so. So there is a little bit of finagling with that. And then all you have to do is just put that one piece back into her other hand that slides right in there. Pop that in. I've also noticed some people are missing this piece of the scythe. This also seems to be a fragile piece for her. Mainly just because it's so big, and also that is a pretty thin piece on this character. So yeah, so this is what Ruby looks like, fully completed. And then just moving right along really quick, Weiss right here, her sword, I was very confused as to how her sword went into her hands. Cool fun fact, this sword actually comes off in two different pieces. And I've seen a lot of people set it next to them because they're like, oh, how do we do that? Or they just didn't know. So literally all you have to do is slide this tiny piece in either side of her hand. I personally like the way that her Milnis Rider, I should know how to say it, but her sword look like this. Somebody correct me in the comments below how to say it properly. But that is how you get her sword in her hand. And this is what it looks like with her fully set up on her pedestal. You've already kind of seen Blake. Yeah, this is one of the train cars from her trailer. She normally would stick right here, but as you can see, that piece right there is broken, and she came like that. But I'm obsessed with her, and like I said, her and Yang are two of the hardest ones to get. the original four, and Nora and Pyrrha. So all the girls, basically. They're difficult, but they're here. And last but not least, Yang. She's super easy to get on. She actually has 2 peg holes right here and just stands on the dance floor like a boss. So pretty easy. This is how all of them are set up. And we'll move on to Team Juniper. All right, moving on to Team Juniper. I am a total sucker for figures that stick together like this, like puzzle pieces. I think it's a really cool idea. Please disregard the fact that some of the pieces seem to be discolored from the other ones. The cool thing about this Series 2 and Series 3, this one can actually be configured a couple different ways, mainly with their poses. Not so much Nora with the way she's standing up like that, because her weapon actually sticks into the ground one way. However, each of the other characters, Jean, Ren, and Pyrrha, have 2 peg holes that you actually stick them in, and you can actually flip their poses around. And it still works pretty well. The hard part is just navigating their weapons, as you can tell. Ren's was pretty easy to get in there. They just slide right down in his hands, like so. There we go. As you can see, that little piece, he was actually one of the easier ones to get his weapons in and out of. Pyrrha's shield is permanently attached, so don't worry about that. However, her lance right here, same case as RWBY's scythe. You kind of have to maneuver her fingers just a little bit. I'm going to try and get the camera to where you can see it. There you go. Let's see. Right there. The fingers on the top of her hand, you have to move either that or the thumb, and just it will angle itself into her hand. Jean's is pretty cool too, because his actually has 2 options. You can put his sword in his hand, or this piece right here, you can actually fit the sword into his shield. And if I can get it off his hand, it's been in there so long. If I can get it. Come here, dude. Let's see here. I'm going to make sure I'm not going to break this. It just slides out. So, like so. This one they actually made a lot easier than Weiss's. But you can actually stick it in right here. And voila. So cool. I think it's cool. Somebody else might not. Something I really want to get is one of those rotating display things, so that it actually rotates as you're looking at them. I think those are really cool. And this is one of those where you want to see everything from all angles. I don't know why I didn't do this for the others, but so here's Series 3, and they seem to be the most fragile of the bunch. It was like as they progressively went from Series 1 all the way here, it's like they got more and more fragile. So Roman has 1 peg that his foot, the one closest to the cane, actually sits on. That peg broke. So the only thing that is holding him up right now is his cane. And his cane actually sits in that part of his pedestal right there. Emerald, thankfully, has not broken, though her scythes were the most difficult to get into her hand. Literally, you kind of just have to fit them in there, and they don't really pop into place. They just sit there. That's the best way to describe it. Mercury in the back there, his flame has broken. It is super glued. It is the only one. Well, actually, no. Cinder is also super glued. There was a shelf moving incident and one of her feet broke. So if you can tell, the foot that doesn't have the anklet on it is cracked. I think it's kind of cool though. It gives her some character. It looks like she's got another bracelet on her ankle. And yeah, so basically Mercury and Emerald both have attachable weapons. Roman's kind of just sits there and he can put his hand on it. And obviously Cinder, oh wait, Cinder actually does have her her, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on what her weapon is called, but it just slips into her hand if I remember correctly. And last but not least, we have Series 4, which is just Ruby from her Volume 4 outfit. This one had a really awkward weapon placement, and it's also very top heavy. So, the scythe part has to be down. However, you can put it into some really cool poses. This one, if I remember correctly, also is in 2 pieces. Yep, 2 pieces, and they just go together like the other one does. Voila. She sits on this really cool stand. It looked like they were going to do something similar to the first Series 2 and Series 3, but with the RWBY team, which would have been really cool. If anybody knows why they stopped creating these, I would love to know. I'm assuming they stopped doing them because they did not sell well. That is the only reason I could think of that they stopped creating the actual figures themselves. But besides that, for any fan of RWBY, by the way, Series 4 seems to be the easiest to come by. It was on the Rooster Teeth store up until a couple months ago. I think the last of them finally may have sold. I've heard also some people, the Rooster Teeth company still sells them at conventions like RTX. So I'm sure there's still multiple ways to get them. I recommend looking on eBay and Mercari. Both of those are great places to find these. I personally found mine on Mercari. And also some on eBay, and it's just one of those things where it may take a little bit of time, but the payoff is highly worth it. So GoodSmile seems to have picked up the slack when it comes to RWBY figures, and they just got done with Team RWBY. Let me know in the comments below what figure you would like to see made next. One specifically that has not been made. Me personally, I would love to see a version of either Penny or Neo. Neapolitan, and those two would just, I feel like, be epic character stands to have. Alternatives to the RWBY figures. So if the McFarlane toy figures are not for you, you have plenty of options to choose from when it comes to other versions of RWBY figures. GoodSmile seemed to be the first company that kind of picked up and started doing RWBY figures. I'll leave a link in the description below to their site where you can actually check out. They have a ton of fan-made RWBY stuff, not just RWBY. They have any anime you can think of, they've got stuff for. And they have some really cool posters and t-shirts and hoodies. It's like if the Rooster Teeth store had an alternate version for the RWBY section. So check that out. They have got Team RWBY in their regular forms, but they also have like a chibi version, but it's not really a chibi version. It's like if serious chibi was a thing. They're like a minified version, and you'll recognize it when you see it. And also, there is another company that called Socket. I'm not really sure how you say it, but it's QP and then Socket. They've done their own sets of RWBY figures, and they seem to have the more updated volume looks. If I remember correctly, they seem to have their volume 4 or 5 outfits on. And kind of, if you really had the budget for it, there are some really expensive 1/3 zero scales. And I'm totally blanking on who made them. I want to say the Rooster Teeth store sold them at one point, but I mean, they were selling for one figure anywhere north of $300 just because of either how long ago they came out or, I mean, the detail and the size of the figure is probably what is driving the price point. So if you all enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like or a dislike. If not, comment down below which of these characters that I showed today is your favorite and why. Personally, I think Weiss is my favorite. I absolutely love her character and the character development she's had over the last 8 seasons. I'm really excited to see where Ice Queendom goes. the new Japanese 2D animated version of RWBY. I'm really excited to see what they do with that. That will just expand the base and give us a whole new story for RWBY. So that's really exciting. If anybody has any questions or other things related to the video, put them down below. I want to hear them all. As always, thank you everyone for watching. I'm really enjoying making these so far. This is kind of a new side project for me. I'm really enjoying doing it so far. I think I'm going to do some RWBY reviews of recent RWBY things that I've gotten within the next couple episodes, so I'm really excited about that. Let me know which figures you're also hunting down or which ones you have already, and which ones that may have been the hardest for you if you haven't. I'm also planning on reviewing the GoodSmile versions of the RWBY figures. I have most of those, so I'm looking forward very much to reviewing those. And thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. This is going to be an outtake for the very end of the video because this thing is a pain in the butt to get out of its box. It's for the very end of the video. This is a setup. So this is the exciting room where it all happens. So compared to these right here, this box is massive. And I never saw this the first time I got it, but I mean, this thing weighs a ton. I just pulled this out of my attic because that's where it lives. So I don't really have the space to store this thing. But I always wondered why this figure was so much money and why it was so much to ship. This thing was like $50 in shipping for anybody who's curious. And I will pull it out of the box here shortly and it will be set up and then I'll start the video. But yeah, so if you ever get one of these, this is what you're looking at getting. And it is massive, but definitely recommended for anybody who is super into RWBY and really likes a fight sequence figure set. I actually have not done an unboxing for this video, but this is what you're first greeted with when you actually open the packaging up. So cool. This is like the box is so well done. I would hope so because this thing ran me $300+. It was not cheap and I got it as on sale as you could possibly get it. But it's totally worth it. Like all the symbols are like engraved or slightly raised off the box, kind of like the thumbsticks. And even like, the characters are flat. I just haven't touched this box in a hot minute, but it's incredible.